My name is Chet Zaborowski. I was a Sergeant E5 in the United States Army Special Forces. In Vietnam, our battles lasted hours sometimes, and that was it. There were a few long engagements, like the Tet Offensive, the Siege of Khe Sanh, I think that lasted for 77 days, but that was something extraordinary. Most of our firefights and combat experiences were over real quick. The enemy had this idea that they can't stand toe-to-toe with us and engage us and fight us and win because we had fast, superior weapons. Okay, so the enemy would hit and run. Hit and run. It was called jungle warfare, and we had to learn how to fight that way. It was a very dangerous place to be where I was, and in fighting the missions that we were fighting, our teams went out and had 100% casualties almost every single time they went out. Everyone was wounded at least once, sometimes even more than once on all of these missions. Soldiers were dying out there at a pretty high rate because the enemy knew that, okay, there are only so many places that you could bring a helicopter in and land it, called a landing zone. And the enemy would have enough soldiers to watch every single possible landing site, whereby some of the missions that we were going on, as we were coming in, the lead ship would touch down, soldiers would get out, the second ship would come in, and we'd get shot at. And then we'd have to break off contact and return the people that went down on the first ship. So it was extremely dangerous for us, and somebody steps on glass, or they break their ankle or their hand, or they get a hangnail or something. All those little minor operations are real simple. And then you get into the more serious ones, obviously the gunshot wounds, which are, they can be real tricky. Sometimes it's a flesh wound. It doesn't cause a lot of damage. And other times it's more than a flesh wound. It causes a lot of damage to where, tissue has to be removed, bone has to be removed, or legs have to be amputated. You get to those, that gets pretty serious, and I guess you have to take that with a grain of salt. I was a medic. I was expecting to do this stuff, so when I saw it, it didn't make me sick. It didn't make me upset. It gave me an opportunity to save this person's life, to save this person's leg or their arm, or to do those things, and that's the stuff that I remember from the operations. We had one night that there was a South Vietnamese company that experienced an awful lot of casualties, and we were the first line of medical care, that as they were coming off the choppers, they were bringing them into our dispensary, and the medics that were there, we had 7 medics on compound, were all taking care of these injuries. A company of men is about 100 to 120 men, most of them wounded to different levels, and we stayed up all night from I guess it was not until about 5 o'clock in the morning, 0500 hours, that we finished the last person to actually bring them in and then save their lives. So the operations probably lasted, I'm going to say, close to 10 to 12 hours, that we were actually working on soldiers constantly for that 10 to 12 hours, continuously. Get one off the table, treat him, take him off the table, bring the next one on, like an assembly line. And you did that all night. All 7 medics did that all night. Our engagements, they're there, we're here, we fight, shoot, kill one another. My mission is to take care of my guys. When base camps are attacked and soldiers come over the wires and the fences and stuff like that, and they're wounded, yes, after the fact, when they're going around cleaning up the bodies, if there's a wounded person, I'm sure a lot of the medics took North Vietnamese and Viet Cong soldiers and stuff and took them in and treated them because that's what they were trained to do, regardless of their rank or their affiliation to North Vietnam, South Vietnam, or whatever. It was a human being, it was a person, a medic was going to take care of them. I was the medic for myself, I was the medic for everybody that was out there. If we went out with 7 people on a recon team, I was the medic for all 7 people. Montagnards and Americans alike. I went out in a hatchet force of 35 people. I was the main medic, even though I had a counterpart that went with me. I was the main medic for that particular group. I went out with a company. I was the main medic for those 100 people that are out there. We went through classes to teach all of the Americans, how to start IVs, how to stop bleeding with direct pressure and, with tourniquets and with bandages. Because if I ever went down and somebody needed to take care of me, I may have trained you into how to start an IV, and you could do an IV on me. There's a lot of training that went on by my part to all of my counterparts and all of my team leaders, all the Americans. They knew, maybe not as much as I did, but they knew enough to save lives out in the field. They didn't have the intensified training that I had. They had what I taught them. And if I taught them how to do IVs, it was for the purpose of, okay, if the medic is killed and somebody else is wounded, you need to start an IV. If somebody is slightly wounded, you need to be able to put on a bandage. Simple things like that. And that's all the different training missions. And I trained my medical counterparts, the Montagnards, to make sure that they at least could do the first aid stuff, the immediate care stuff of stopping bleeding, creating an airway for somebody, putting on bandages, starting IVs. These are the things that we taught them. How to put on a splint, how to carry somebody out of the jungle in a makeshift litter. These are all the things that we used, all practical ideas.